And something I was really impressed with in your book is that there seems to be this band of brothers mentality between prison officers, in that if something happens, you don't speak out against another prison officer. But or the examples you gave in the book is when you saw something that was definitely not right, you would report that person.
A little ditty that I like to say now, and it is a prison service through and through. It's very easy to stand in a crowd. It's not so easy to stand on your own. A lot of prison officers are very good people and they know right from wrong. However, there's no such thing as whistleblowing in the prison service. You speak out against a member of staff, it don't matter how wrong they are, you know, you are seen. I was seen by some of my friends, as being a wrong un, a bad person. I've had people tell me we don't do that and things like this. And there is a fear. People who've been in a job, it's a career, there's all that worry. I know a lot of people who would turn their back so they didn't see things. Um, if you whistleblow, you are not protected. You are out on your own. In instances when I was involved in an investigation at Strangeways. I had my colleagues on Strangeways at my back. I mean, on K-Wing. They knew what had happened. Yeah. I was warned not to report it. I did report a senior officer who was basically bullying people and battering people for no good reason. All the staff on that wing knew what was happening. So I had their support. Off that wing, 6 months, people would turn their back on me, wouldn't speak on me. I had a senior officer on A wing tell me, don't get involved in anything on my wing because my staff won't support you. I obviously told him to get on his bike and, present company accepted.
But it leads to a more dangerous situation, a more dangerous environment, I suppose. If you have one prison officer who is bullying inmates, then the inmates are more likely to turn on the rest of you.
It's, it is so difficult. I've heard ex-prisoners say, if you see some wrongdoing and don't report, you're as bad as the people doing it. Some days I think that, but then I think of people I know who did a good job and did lots of good things, who I know because they've told me have seen bad things and not reported them or whatever, through fear.
Mm.
I know equally lots of officers who have challenged people, and I mean, at worst or at best, depending which way you look at it, one of my friends got hold of another officer, pinned him up a wall against a wall in a cell, and told him in no uncertain terms, if he saw him do what he'd done again, he would take him outside and fill him in. So, and I've seen other people. I remember one officer. I never got on with him. I never liked him. But when a principal officer basically ordered him to beat up a prisoner, he went, "Whoa, I'm not part of that. We've done his job. We've restrained him. You want to do that? You step in, but I'm not doing it." So it's not everybody. And the other thing that I've only thought about recently, and it's no excuse. This is not an excuse or a reasoning, but some of the people who have done bad things have also done good stuff. A lot of these people, it's opportunity and knowing your audience. Um, my fears are now with the prison service, with prisoners being locked up a lot, that it's the sort of environment for bullies that two of you, three of you go to a cell, someone's kicking off or whatever, and it gets dealt with. I've never agreed with that. You're not above the law, but I've had threats from people, prison officers. I know prison officers who have whistle blown. They haven't been protected. They've been threatened, had their property damaged. Police have said, threats against your life, threats to have your property burnt down, on a really serious level. And they're in instances, really serious things have happened in prison. Well, it's terrible. It don't bear thinking about, really.
Well, that's one of the things I was thinking, as you were talking there, it's so complex because I'd imagine, well, my initial thought would be, being a prison officer, you feel most frightened maybe when you're in this kind of situation that you described earlier, where you're so outnumbered by the prisoners and there clearly seems to be something rumbling, or whether you're faced with one person that is incredibly aggressive and perhaps sort of with superhuman strength because they're, I don't know, on some kind of drugs. But then the other side is a different kind of fear where you feel that your colleagues don't have your back. And that kind of vulnerability is unlike the other kind of physical vulnerability.
What you said about facing lots of prisoners, I'd rather have a landing full of prisoners and deal with them than someone one-on-one, it or not, who is going to go for it or whatever. That is a lot more serious. That as far as colleagues not having your back, you see, again on K-Wing, they'll call you behind your back. Not many people will challenge you to your face. I had people above my rank say off the cuff remarks, and I have challenged them, and very soon, not necessarily back down, but they will walk away. And remember one governor sort of saying to me, we've never had anything like this before in Strangeways, when he's talking about the senior officer, abusing his position and me challenging that. So I sort of said to him, what do you mean by that, Governor? You've never had anyone's, out anyone who's wrongdoing or something like that. And he sort of turned on his heels, and I followed him. Governor, come here and speak to me. He was having none of it. He knew I was on one me. I would have pursued him. So even though people don't agree, people might not say something to your face, but it's not a nice position to be in. Like I say, I know staff who are now out of the job who have whistle blown. There's absolutely no protection, none whatsoever. And if I hadn't had the backing of my sort of colleagues on K-Wing, it'd have been way worse than it was. I mean, for 6 months, literally everywhere else, new people were talking about you. People just ignored you. I remember doing an overtime shift on the Cat A unit, and I went on and nobody spoke to me. Full morning shift, 8:30, till we'd served meals, locked everyone up at 12:30. Not one person spoke to me. If there'd have been different staff on that unit that day, they would have spoke to me. But the people were on, old school dinosaurs. I have some very good friends, people who I like working with, who were quality officers, who never speak to me again, turn their backs when that book come out. What happens in prison stays in prison, through, like Blackpool Rock, all the way through them. That's what it would say.
So what was the incentive in writing the book?
2016. I was not in a good place mentally. I'd just been finished by the prison service in August. November, near my birthday. Every prison officer I've ever met is going to write a book. Yeah, they all say it. I said to the missus, I'm going to write a book. She looked at me, give me one of them blank stares, a bit cuckoo, which I was then. I started researching, not the book, just looking how you get published, self-publishing. It is deeply grim. If you look at the figures, the chances of you getting an agent, never mind a book deal, are in the publishing world. If you get a contract and you sell 1,000 books, you've done well. So, I knew I'd got the stories, and I know myself, I know I am. Memory is, well, it's just at a minute, I don't know if it's a good thing, but I can remember the smallest detail. So yeah, I just decided it's something I need to do. And that's where the idea mainly, or what I thought then, was that, maybe I'd make $250,000, we'll get a house, pay a mortgage off, some security for the missus and my daughter. Now, that was, really out there. However, that's what I needed. I need a purpose, and as I was just treading water. I weren't well. It was just some sort of focus, really.
And if you were to hold a higher position in the prison service, what changes would you make to ensure that prison is better for a deterrent and to reduce the reoffending rates, because they are particularly high in our country?
If I was in a position now, I put 40 more staff in every prison, more staff per shift, enough staff, so that every single day they had enough staff to get people out. I'd have a prison-wide regime, and I'd start there with the dynamic security. Forget everything else, purposeful activity, everything else. Get people out, start building them relationships. Let prisoners know that they're going to get out every day. They can speak to their loved ones. They'll turn up on visits on time. Can have a shower every day. They can have some exercise. That's where I'd start. Without staff, the right training, retention of staff, and decent conditions, nothing's happening. Simple as that.
And so, why did you leave the prison service?
My last 6 months at Strangeways, March the 1st, 2015, the prison changed, the whole dynamics changed. Workforce modernisation and benchmarking were the buzzwords then. Basically what they did, people, it was like when we were in engineering, used to have time and motion men, yeah? So they would look at a job I was doing, they'd work out the time. If I could do that job quicker, I'd get a bonus, yeah? And then in engineering, obviously got machines coming in, taking over from bodies, so reducing the costs. The prison service, benchmarking, and workforce modernisation, they just looked at the job, they decided, K-Wing, for instance, this is how they were thinking. Now, bear in mind, there was a prison governor from Strangeways on this committee, so he should have known better, yeah? They were looking at K-Wing. So if K-Wing had 15 staff in the day for 200 prisoners, yeah, somebody thought, hold on a minute, if half them prisoners go to work and education and visits, there's only 100 prisoners, so you don't need all them staff. So we can use them elsewhere. So where we're now employing staff on visits, we'll get rid of them, and some of K-Wing staff can go, and that wing staff, and that wing staff, and make the numbers up. And that's what they did. What they forget, these people in prison, there are incidents. And when there's incidents, you need more staff. Yeah. Half a K-Wing staff go to visits, and then incident on visits, they're not coming back. So then when K-Wing, all their prisoners come back, they haven't got enough staff to serve meals. And it just escalated. It was basically the job become task orientated. I became more confrontational. Prisoners were angry and frustrated. Everything ran late. I moved off healthcare. I'd worked on there 7 years. I loved it. We got new staff on healthcare, and this is the prison service. I interviewed to get on healthcare for suitability. During my time on healthcare, I had to interview again because other people wanted to come on for suitability. In March 2015, no one was interviewed. They just got random people and put them on healthcare, which is a dangerous place to work. So I was in conflict in somewhere I'd worked for a long time. I moved off there onto A-Wing. I was only there 3 weeks. But by this time, I was raging. I didn't know that at the time. September the 4th, 2015, I got injured on D-Wing in a restraint. My arm was hanging out of its socket, like the old chicken wing, pulling it off. On that restraint, though, there were 2 other staff with me. One of them hurt his back, and the other one was in a really, really bad place. Anxiety state. He was on antidepressants. I knew that. He looked like he was going to have a heart attack. One lad hurt his back. My arm's hanging out. We're in the segregation. We've taken the prisoner there. There's 3 managers and a governor and the seg staff laughing and joking. We're stood outside the office, all 3 injured. Nobody cared. Nobody looked. Nobody gives a second thought. My injury was really bad. I still turned into work the next day. It was my last day before annual leave. A nurse saw me. I asked for painkillers. She says, what's up? I had a look at my arm. She says, what are you even doing here? Fill the accident book in. She made me fill it in. I went home. The injury was bad enough to get a doctor's note for a month. My shoulder took 9 months to heal. However, at the 4-week stage of being on the sick, I was barking. Dangerous individual, anxiety state, short-tempered, quite violent, not sleeping, talking to myself, and it got worse.
Just as a result of like the culmination of an increasingly stressful time at work.
Up until March 2015, I had enjoyed the job. I worked lots of overtime. That last 6 months, I just became, like I said, not all prison officers are fighters or have presence or interpersonal skills. So, you know, for instance, I remember being in the undercentre of the bottom jail, right? So there's a lot of prisoners going to work. There's a big group on a visit, and there is a lad who is a gentle soul. This prisoner was standing over him. He was backing off. I went and challenged the prisoner toe to toe. There must have been 40 staff in that area scattered around. One walked over, you know, sort of watching me back. You're right, Sam, I've got your back. The others pretended nothing were happening, including 2 prison governors. They just turned their backs and carried on talking. And that's how it was. So the last 6 months, my missus saw it, I didn't see it. So, and when I actually went to see my own GP, you know, the risk of me having a stroke or heart attack was way up here. So I was in a really, but I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Have you ever bumped into prisoners on the outside?
Hundreds.
And what's the relationship like when you see them outside of the prison walls?
I'll tell you the one experience when I was at the kids' home, actually, was in Bury. I got 3 of the kids. I was outside the train station in Bury. I saw this lad. He's the only lad that I thought if I ever saw him on the out, he'd do something to him. If he threatened, he would kill me. So I saw him cross the road. He'd seen me. I said to the 3 lads, police station's 100 meters away. Go up there, go in the police station, wait for me. The lad who's just recently contacted me, cheeky little chap, says, are you going to have a fate? Are you going to have a fate, Sam? I said, I don't know what's going to happen. Go to the police station. So he walked over the road. There was some traffic. He stopped. He walked over the road. As he sort of reached the curb, he says, you think I'm going to do something? I said, I'm not sure. He says, I weren't sure. However, you know, if we could shake hands, then maybe. So we did. The kids were still there. The little cheeky chappy hadn't gone to the cot shop. We said a few words and off he went. The last place I lived in Manchester was Little Holton. Lived on the precinct, which is a very busy place. We had a masonette above some shops. I saw ex-prisoners every day. One lad I knew really well, 15 years, lived 100 meters away. He knew my cars, he knew my garage, where my bike was. My motorbike was safe, our cars were safe. No fears of that. He was well connected. I saw loads of lads. Very cliched. You're right, Mr. S, what are you doing here? I live there, don't rob it. I used to say it all the time. You know, you couldn't hide away there. So I always tret and spoke to people, like my nan said, as you want to spoke to and tret this end. So I never had no comebacks. The odd one who possibly could have been troublesome, they'd usually get embarrassed. So if you're in a supermarket and they'd see you, walk the other way rather than speak to you.
Well, thank you so much for the chat today. It has been enlightening. And I do look forward to reading your second book, because the first one was fantastic.
Jobs are good now. I've enjoyed it myself. Nice to meet you both.
Thank you so much. It's been really interesting.